and welcome back to Off the Ruck, your weekly rugby breakdown with me, John Ferguson. Round 8 is in the books, and it was a condensed, shortened version of the competition this weekend because it was only 3 games with a lot of teams on buys. You may hear that I'm a bit clogged up and a bit sick. I was actually at home all long weekend with a pretty nasty bout of a flu or a cold or whatever it is. So I have just been chilling on the couch, and unfortunately, there wasn't a whole lot of Super Rugby to keep me company. But the little that there was, I'm going to go through now. And at the end, I'm going to talk about a little bit what's going to come out up in the week and the weeks ahead because I'm super excited to be able to bring you guys some different content in the weeks ahead. So we're going to start off at Apollo Project Stadium in Christchurch with the Crusaders against the Fiji Drua. This was the last game that the Crusaders will host for the foreseeable future at Apollo Project Stadium. It was a timely goodbye because the new stadium, One New Zealand Stadium, TIK TOK Stadium, has now been opened, and it will be the first grand opening for Super Rugby Pacific in Super Round in round 11, which I will be at. Yes, that is correct. I am going as media to create content to be able to bring you guys closer to the action for those of you who can't make it over there. For you guys who are going over to Super Round, please, please, please say g'day. Drop me a note on any social media, either Instagram or on X, where I do a lot of my stats and observatory work and writings. Please drop me a note, and I would love to say g'day. Maybe we'll be able to organize a little bit of a beer. I'm going along with the Scrum Bags boys, so maybe we'll be doing a little bit of a podcast cross pollination, their collaboration. I have Lockie and Mitch on here sometimes, and sometimes they have me on their channel. I am super excited to be able to get over there and to be able to create some great content for you guys as well. So, sorry, that was a little bit all over the place. But yeah, Crusaders versus the Fiji Drua. It was a timely farewell to the stadium, and it was also to celebrate Cody Taylor's 150th Crusaders appearance. To have that many caps for, in Super Rugby Pacific is an absolute milestone. But to be able to have that many for one club is truly a mark of honor, respect, loyalty, and it is just so awesome to see someone who is such a big part of the All Blacks and also New Zealand rugby's profile to be able to go the way. He obviously is in the competition for, or in the contest rather, for the All Blacks captaincy. He is someone that a lot of people have a lot of respect for, and he's obviously in the thick of it for large parts of the game. Do they want to have a captain that's on there for the full 80? I don't know if you want to be playing Cody Taylor for 80 minutes every single weekend. So that, will be discussed. But I think, although I didn't catch the whole game because on Friday I was literally just in like a fever dream. Literally, I was just high, had a very high fever and wasn't doing a whole lot. I think that 69-26, it is boding really, really badly for the Fiji Drua, but also just generally in Moana Pacifica. They're now at minus 100 and a minus 162 points differential, the pair of them. And I think that this has gotten to the point where, so particularly the Fijian Draw, because they have their own academy and they have their own feeder system, and they really work to be able to get their talent going through. They are really suffering at the speed of which their really, really top rated, top shelf talent is getting signed overseas. And it's no one's fault. It's not that I'm begrudging anyone, because the individual athletes, beg your pardon. The individual athletes obviously want to make money so they can provide for their families, extended or close or otherwise, or also just be able to make a smart career move. No one should begrudge them with that, but it is really, really starting to tell when just crucial parts, particularly out of the back line for the Fijian Drua, but also some of the forwards, get stripped out. And then we know that's going to happen again. So Tana Kaivata, one of their biggest carries at number 8, who I think he got 2 tries against the Crusaders. So well done to Tana Kaivata. He's going away to Japan, I believe, or maybe it's France. I'm not quite sure on that detail, but he's definitely leaving the Fijian Drua after this season. And that's just another massive blow after losing someone like Celestino Ravatau-Munda last year, losing Caleb Muntz, their fly half, and now they've just left it to Isaiah Armstrong Revula, who's a very young player, very exciting, but very young. So what I will say about this game is that the Crusaders soldier on, but the Drua are, that in this game at least, they're really starting to show that the drain on their talent overseas is now happening quicker because more eyes are on them. It's happening quicker than it was in their first couple of seasons because they weren't as high profile, they weren't playing as good rugby. But under Mick Byrne, they really grew, and then to be able to have so many players hang on for so many seasons, they've really developed, and now they've just fed fully developed players up into the Northern Hemisphere. And it's just such a shame for the Fijian Drua who really try hard and have such a really passionate fan base, but it is such a shame to be able to see this happening uh, time and time again. And they are, sorry, they have two wins, one against the Hurricanes, one against the Brumbies at home, and apart from that, they've lost the other five. So it's not great. It's not great. I mean, it's not looking great for a couple of other sides either, but particularly these sides. That's where I can see that this is starting to affect them on more of a structural level. We'll head to the first Saturday game, and excuse me, sorry. Um, the Chiefs versus the Waratahs. The Chiefs were just entirely dominant. They snowballed the entire game. And although it wasn't too bad in the beginning of the game, it's because I thought the Waratahs kicked quite smartly. They denied the Chiefs any sort of territory. It meant any mistakes that the Waratahs made, handling or discipline wise, wasn't punished so badly because even the Chiefs couldn't necessarily go 100 every single time against the Waratahs. But the more that the game went on, the more the Waratahs kind of felt like they needed to get into the game, and so they started keeping the ball in the hand. They started making the mistakes in the backfield. The Chiefs got lots of pay from their box kicks with young Sid Harvey in the back, really getting a baptism of fire. Although he's played a couple of games now, playing fullback in Hamilton with the cowbells ringing is a very, very different thing to playing at home in Sydney when you've got half of Narrabri and all of Sydney supporting you. So I think that it is a real. It was a really smart game plan by the Chiefs. Sorry, before Dan McKellar's men, they rely on their defense. They really rely on staunch defense to be able to get two sets of shoulders on one defender to be able to drive them backwards, to be able to force them into situations where they don't want to be on the back foot, and then they have to kick before they're actually ready, or that they want to, or that they have a strategic point to kick. But that did not happen on the weekend. Slight change of angles, bit of a pivot in movement, sly little sleight of hand, good delayed passes at the line. That's what it took to be able to destabilize the Waratahs' defense, and they were merely hanging on to tackles at this point, as opposed to making any sort of dominant contact, which is what they rely on. They tackled at 86%, so not bad for a rush defense side, but it was the quality of the contacts that they made. So 86, the 86% that they did make, I wouldn't say a whole lot of them were dominant, and I think that players like Miles Amatosero, he really stepped up. Charlie Gamble, Pete Samu, all those kind of players really, really tried to do their part to be able to staunch the momentum. Whether it was set piece, like Miles Amatosero swam through a couple of mauls, did really, really well there, but also in defense, and they just couldn't do it alone because the Chiefs were just so relentless. Quinn Tupaia, he is the form 12 at the. Sorry, he is the form 12 at the moment. It's absolutely astounding how powerful, fast, and explosive he is. He scored one try in the loose, one try, like, burrowing in like a loose forward. He is just such an immense powerhouse of a human. And, if I was an All Black selector, I'd be putting him at number 12 or 13, probably 13, because you wouldn't want to deny Geordie Barrett that position. And although Timothy Tavatavanawa has been going great guns, it just feels like Quintapaya is just that little bit more balanced right now. But that doesn't mean that you wouldn't put Timothy Tavatavanawa in the 23 on game day, because although Leicester Fainga'anuku is going really well, I would still reckon Timothy Tavatavanawa and Quintapaya are the form centres at the moment. But I'd still reckon you put Geordie Barrett at 12. Let me know what you think in the comments below, all you guys who have an opinion on that. And, as a Wallaby supporter going into test season, I'd be more concerned to see Quintapaya in the centres than I would Timothy Tavatavanawa or Leicester Fainga'anuku at the moment. That's not to say that I wouldn't be terrified to see all three of them in a backline, which is a possibility because they're all such variable skills and can play so many different positions. But for the Waratahs, if they can't get the defence right, they start floundering, and it doesn't help when Jack Debrasini has a game that to forget, where he drops balls, throws passes forward, kicks poorly, and it's been a couple of games in a row now where he has made some mistakes under pressure, and he has kind of folded to that pressure, and I think that it's I'm actually not sure what it is, but it was time to hook him at a certain point on the weekend, and Dan McKellar did. And I think Jack Bowen actually made a really positive impact. He started putting little dinks in behind the line. The Waratahs were getting absolutely smashed when they were running the ball, and they were very lateral. And the Chiefs felt that, so they smelt the blood in the water, and so then they started rushing faster and harder. And so to be able to negate that, or to be able to mitigate that, or to put a second thought into their mind, Jack Bowen started putting little dinks in behind, and you know what? It actually worked. So well done to Jack Bowen for that little cameo. I thought Teddy Wilson was pretty strong in the first half. Jake Gordon came on, steadied the ship, not quite enough. It was interesting to see Angus Blythe get subbed on for Matt Phillip. Maybe that's just a rotation minutes thing. The captain has been playing a lot of big minutes. Miles Amtosero, again, a really, really good talent. Max Jorgensen. Haven't really heard about why he was subbed off. I'm hoping that it was just for minutes as well, but we will see when we hear more from the team. But absolutely stellar performance, and I think that it would have been a lot bigger score had Max Jorgensen not been playing try savers, and also a lot of attacking threats that kept Waratahs in the right parts of the field. So congratulations to the Chiefs. Well done. They soldier on. The Waratahs have a lot to think about and a lot to execute, because I just think that the tar tough that they talk about often, and something that they really relate to, that just didn't quite make it all the way across the Tasman. So they'll have to work on that again. They're sitting seventh at the moment. A bonus point win and a loss for the Reds would put them into sixth, but the Waratahs need to make sure that they start winning, because otherwise they will lose touch with that top six very, very quickly if the top six start making their wins count in this second part of the season. Heading into the final game of the weekend, and this was the game of the round. It really was. Congratulations to the Western Force. They were missing Paulo Tizzano, Jeremy Williams. They lost prop Tom Robertson early to a concussion. Obviously, Reds lost Caden Pritchard, which I'll get to in a second as well, to concussion, but they were down a couple of their key players. Jack Daly had never played for the Western Force before in Super Rugby Pacific. He had a game during Super Rugby AU, but not Super Rugby Pacific. Um, Obviously, put Bailey Consul at 12, George Bridge at 13, Dylan Peach, welcome back, absolutely stellar. He made a really, really quick and significant impact. They lost Darby Lancaster throughout, but the guys up front, 1 through to 8, as well as 16 through to 21, 21, 2020, sorry, on the forwards reserves, absolutely put their heads down and went to town on the Reds. It's the best platform that they've been able to give their backline, and you can see what Ben Donaldson has been doing all year. He's been controlling the tempo really well. He's been probing when he's been given time and space, and he has been kicking them into spots where they can actually do some damage. And the forwards finally set a really dominant forward platform, and that allowed Ben Donaldson to unlock his backline and to be able to run up a score of 42-19 against the Reds at home at Suncorp. For the Reds, it was an absolute shambles. And this comes down to leadership. There wasn't a time when the Reds went more direct, more direct, more direct. Excuse me, what was I? Beg your pardon. It wasn't a time when the Reds thought about changing from going wide, doing the loop passes with Carter Gordon, to going direct. So it was really, really, really obvious early that the Reds were trying to go wide too early, and the Western Force were very comfortable with that, because, as we know, they've crumbled a few times in recent games when they've been put under pressure, where teams have had to have tried to go successive phases through them, and the Force just haven't been able to adapt or reset quick enough, slow the breakdown down. But I will say that Franco Molina, Darcy Swain, Jack Daly, along with Brandon Pangamosa, Violini Ekawasi, all worked so hard to be able to slow the Reds' ruck ball down. And despite the Reds having this slower ruck ball, they still wanted to play as though they had space and time, which they didn't, because the Western Force was set. Players like Darcy Swain made that breakdown an absolute nightmare. And then in attack, players like Franco Molina was the difference in being able to generate that quick ball, that momentum, that gain line carry. That is something that Violini Ekawasi, who had another barnstorming game with lots of carries, has to usually do on his own, because no one else in the force pack is really able to carry that dominantly. But Franco Molina, his lumbering, they weren't exactly explosive, but his lumbering, powerful strength, leg drive carries were just able to get the force 2 or 3 meters beyond the gain line to be able to reset the Reds' defense, which is not a rush defense. It's actually quite a slow, connected line speed defense, which the Wallabies were kind of running last year, but they have different variations. I don't want to compare them, but I just want to give you an idea of where else I've seen it. They just weren't able to put any pressure on the likes of Ben Donaldson. They weren't putting any pressure on the likes of Bailey Kunzel and George Bridges in the centres. And when Curly Beale got onto the field, he actually managed to speed up that sort of thing because he played quite flat. So then the Reds were even more on their heels. So Ben Donaldson kicked extremely well. Contestables worked a charm on young Caden Pritchard. It's such a shame that he got concussed because he looked to be doing a great job in the air and also with ball in hand. Really put his head on the spokes to be able to make that tackle on Darby Lancaster when he made the break. Unfortunately, HIA. Hopefully, he passes his test so he can come back and play against the Crusaders this weekend because that'll be an absolute stellar matchup. I guess as against Sever Reese or a Shafiaki, I'm guessing. But yeah, so really, really stellar performance from Trayvon Pritchard for the minutes that he was on. Lukan Solakailotu in a league of his own on the Red side. Thought Seru Uru, Hunter Paisami, Josh Fluke, they had really, really decent games as well. Kalani Thomas probably had a night he'd like to forget, just not as influential. Box kicks weren't as accurate as they needed to be. Josh Nasser went off with a HIA as well, which brought on Matt Fesler. Matt Fesler probably didn't have the night that he'd want to have as impact on his way back from injury again. I think leadership is something we need to talk about, and I've written about it in my Rugby Pass article, my Aussie takes this week. I'll put it down in the description below. I'm just not sure whether Fraser McWright is finding the right tone or rapport with the referees, because I feel like every time the referees have a message for Fraser, he kind of looks unbothered, disinterested, and just slightly annoyed to be being talked to. I just don't know if that's the kind of demeanor. Maybe he's just super laid back. Maybe it's just that he's super laid back and I'm reading it wrong through the TV screen, but it just doesn't seem to be that he's truly engaging and trying to have a positive relationship with the match officials. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd really like to know what you guys are seeing as well. But yeah, congratulations to the Western Force. A bonus point win means that they've got 9 points now, 8 points now in the competition ladder. Actually, let me double check that because I actually don't know if that's correct on the Google site. Let me just double check on the Super Rugby Pacific official site. They are on 9 points. So don't trust Google. Go on to the official site. They're on 9 points. Correct. They could lap, Highlanders and New South Wales Warahs, but they do have a better points differential than the Queensland Reds. So that says a lot about how big the spankings that the Queensland Reds have deserved and the Force have not. Then, now, heading into what's coming up in the weeks ahead, I want to do some I want to do some Champions Cup content. So I will be doing an analysis on which teams in the quarterfinals and the semi-finals are most like the teams in the Super Rugby Pacific and which sides you should follow along if you're interested. This will carry over into the URC, into the Prem, and obviously into the top 14 where these sides come from. So please follow those videos along. Let me know what kind of information you'd like to know about those teams so then you'll be able to support them well into this competition because it is honestly the best club competition in the world. It is like UEFA's Champions Cup in soccer. It's the best of the best going at it. And the rugby on the weekend, which I'm about to watch after this episode, actually, that I've recorded this here, I'm going to go and watch some of those games. So I cannot wait for that. Also, like I mentioned, I'll be going to Super Round. Please give me any tips in Christchurch. If you're from there, please let me know where I should go and have a drink, where I should eat, what sites I should see, but also what kind of rugby content you want to see, because there will be a lot going on to be able to make sure that this tournament is the best iteration of its kind so far. Super Round is going to be an absolute banger. I hope to see many of you there. Don't forget to like and subscribe here. I know this episode is now blown out a little bit, but there was a lot to talk to. As you can hear, my voice is going, so I'm going to leave you with that, and I hope I see you guys on the next one. Ciao.